Hello, Antonio. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Paul. How are you, man?
As I've just said, well, it's my birthday today, so I'm okay. I'm good for a start.
Happy
Thank you very
birthday to you,
much.
my friend. I want to
Thank you.
cheers to your 41s.
Oh, dude, I was going to say 21, man. You ruined my vibe there. Shit, man. This podcast has not got off to a good start. Thank you. No, it's all good, man.
Maybe I should get a beer to smooth it out.
yeah, but it's 11:30 in the morning for you, so don't worry, dude. Because you're joining us from LA, and we've just found out. It's Monday as well, right? I mean, it's not stopping me, of course, but
there we go.
Yeah, but we've just found out that not only do you live in LA, but like we used to live very close together, like when I was in LA as well.
Yes, dude, West Hollywood, close to all the memorable places. Like I don't know, all the recording labels. Amoeba Music is very close here as well.
Oh, dude, I lost so many days in Amoeba. Seriously.
Oh, dude, it's like a little paradise.
Oh, it's incredible. I really missed the place, dude. I really, really missed the place. I was over for NAMM last year, January 2020, before the world went to shit. Yeah. and honestly, I was like entertaining thoughts of like, dude, I might move back here, man. Like, I just miss it so much. I miss the lifestyle. I miss the people. I miss the sunshine. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, the sunshine here is very good. Even though it's a little bit cold in these days right now, but I mean, we still have some sunlight.
Don't talk to me about that, dude. I've just been through an English winter, so don't even go there. Don't even go there. So, for people who haven't or don't know who you are and what you do, can you just like introduce yourself and give me a little bit of your background? Because I think this is going to be a really interesting podcast. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So, well, my name is Antonio Teoli. I am a Brazilian composer. I worked primarily on video games. I score close to something to 500 video games right now.
Wow.
And yeah, the last game that I did was a game developed by Paladin Studios and Nintendo called Good Job that came out last year. I'm working on some new stuff that will come out this year as well. And I have also a very, very different project called The Amazonic, which is, as you know, is this library company focused on the sounds right now, from the sounds from the Amazonian instruments. It's all connected to social causes. And yeah, that's my little background, my short version of my background.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know where to start with everything that you've done there.
Oh, it's always difficult, man. It's so difficult to talk about ourselves.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I always hate it when people, like, because I'm kind of similar in a way, because I've done so much in, like, so many different areas, and it's like you're at a party. Remember those parties? When you go to, you meet someone, like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, dude, how long have you got? Like, seriously, because I don't know whether there's a short answer to that question. Like, I'm really sorry. So it sounds like it's the same for you as well, right? So, I mean, what we're here to talk about today specifically is the Amazonic. I mean, to be honest, already I'm like, I need to bring you back for another episode just to talk about computer game scoring, because I think that would be another interesting conversation. So you've had the invite back in like less than 5 minutes. So you've set the new record for a return invite. Normally I wait till the end of the episode to see whether or not I like the person, but you're done already. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about the Amazonic, and again, like I love this, and how I heard about the Amazonic and this library company that you've set up it's actually a bit of a positive example of like personalized advertising online, because I'll be honest, I happened across you because of an advert that I saw on Instagram, and it was like, oh shit, like this just set so many fires off in my mind of like, I need to A, buy this thing, B, I need to speak to these people because they're doing things that I absolutely love. And finally, I need to find out who done this, and I need to get them on the podcast, because I think there's going to be a really interesting and quite sort of wild conversation to be had about how all of this kind of came about. So why don't you give us a little bit of detail on the Amazonic and how it got started, and what was the intention behind the project?
So the Amazonic has a very interesting story. So during my journey working for video games in December of 2013, Samsung, the phone company Samsung, was starting a game studio in Brazil. And for some reason, they decided to start their game studio in the Amazon, in Manaus. And they reached me out to LinkedIn, offer. So I got a gig. I moved to the Amazon on February 2014 to work as audio director and composer for this game studio for Samsung. And I've always been a very activist guy especially on the animal situation. I am obsessed with animals. So I moved there and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a great experience. Because I've never been to the Amazon up to this point. So I flew there and then I immediately fell in love. I got astonished to know how many stuff, how cultural stuff exists in the Amazon that is not even popular for people from Brazil itself. It's like, wait, what? So I just discovered these different sounds, different foods, different cultures, different native tribes. And so I lived there for 4 years. And in my mind, I was constantly like, I want to do something for the Amazon, something that can be like a full circle experience. But I never had a good idea. So long story short, I quit Samsung and I moved to Los Angeles in June 2018. And January 2019, I'm never gonna forget, out of the blue, I was taking a shower, and shower usually is the best moment to have the best ideas. I don't know why.
Right.
I always take a shower with my iPhone close to me because I always record my voice with ideas, musical ideas, weird ideas, reminders, whatever.
Yeah, good reverb in there as well, right?
I think it's the reverb, man. I think it's the reverb. So it must be. So I remember the spark moment. It was like, oh, damn. Why I didn't record musical instruments from the Amazon? That was it. That came out. It was like a divine light striking my head out of the blue, like boom. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I lived there for 4 years. That was the project. Now I live here in the US. Now I'm gonna have to go back to the Amazon, which I wasn't planning to go back that early because I spent there 4 years of my life already. So I love the place, but I have other places to visit. So I reached out for two guys in Brazil, Cesar and Carlos, which are not in the project anymore. And I say, okay, guys, so this is my idea. I need your help to help me with the logistics. We need to find the guys, find the tribes, find the instruments, do like this catalog of instruments, try to find the facilities, maybe where we can record, how we can borrow some microphones from friends, how we can make this happen. And it wasn't easier because in the Amazon, it's not like São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro where you have access to good equipment. It's everything there is very rustic, it's like a roots experience. So basically we spent 6 months or 7 months or something like that researching, finding the guys, talking to them, and also finding the places where we could connect to this social cause experience that I want to bring to the experience as well, which we can discuss in details later. So I flew to the Amazon, and that's where I recorded the instruments, 103 instruments as far as I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, insane. And how long did that take you? How long were you out there recording?
So I couldn't stay that long because I had some other work from a video game that I was working at the time. So I spent, I think it was between 2 weeks and a half or something like that. So I remember that there were days that we started recording 7 a.m. and stopped recording 2 a.m.
Wow.
and there was like many days like that actually, and it was like completely like far from ideal conditions by every mean, like structure, sleeping, eating. It was like a disaster on this situation, but we managed to, I believe, achieve a very, very cool result.
No, it definitely did, because the first thing that I did, like upon seeing the advert and then reading the website and getting an understanding of the project, the first thing I did was like I bought the thing, because not only are the instruments themselves absolutely phenomenal quality, they're already making their way into productions of mine, and I can appreciate, like, being from an audio engineering background, a really well made contact library, because I know
Oh,
exactly what it takes to go into that. And I've got friends who make contact libraries, and I've consulted on them in the past and stuff. So I've taught audio engineering and sampling to a university level. So I know very well the workload and the quality control that goes into these libraries that somebody loads up onto their computer and kind of takes for granted that that's what it does,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But as I said to you just off air, it's hard enough to do something like that when you're in a fully controlled environment like a recording studio, where you can tick the box and say, right, we're going to do a hard snare, a rim shot, a side stick, this, that, and the other. It's hard
yeah.
enough to do that at the best of times. I cannot get my head around how you've managed to do this whilst recording a lot of these sounds in the middle of like in the middle of the Amazon, basically, because I know
Yeah.
I mean, I've not been to the Amazon, but I know about the conditions there. Like, the jungle is not a quiet place, right?
No, it's not. It's not. There are birds, there are winds, there are everything moving around. The jungle is the opposite of a quiet place. It's a very noisy place, and
hmm
that's what makes so magnificent. But for the purpose of recording instruments, it's the worst place to be. One of the worst, at least.
Yeah, I can
But it
imagine.
was, yeah, it was very intense. And I remember, like, when I was on the stage of documenting the library, I talked to some other companies, and I was like, I have this idea. What are your thoughts? Like, because I never did any contact library in my life. I'm a heavily user contact library because of the music producers like you, like, compose music, so we have to use the libraries. But I was like, how do I do the contact library? And I talked to those guys and explained the situation, and all of them were like, "You're crazy. How are you gonna like? How are you gonna record these instruments there on these conditions? How are you gonna do that?" And like, also there is one thing that is very important to say. It was such a crazy experiment to microphone these instruments,
I can imagine.
because, like, first I didn't know which microphone I would use, and it's not like we had a lot of options, but we was like, okay, so play this instrument, and I was like moving my head around the instrument. Okay, so there is a beautiful low frequency here coming from this section of this instrument, so let's put this microphone here and here. Okay, so here there is like the sound of the skin, but there is also some sound coming from the side. So let's try this. And man, we were like experimenting so much stuff before press record, because like we didn't know what to do. It's not like we record an acoustic guitar where you know exactly where you're going to put the microphone. It was like a
Mm.
completely experimental thing. And even like, when the native people, or the musicians, they were like playing these instruments they created, I was like, okay, let's try to do this on your instrument. Can you do this? We were trying to figure new ways to extract cool sounds from their
Mm.
instruments, and it was very fascinating, because they were the creators of the instrument. And of course, I didn't want to be offensive or anything like that, like an ignorant guy. But I say, let's try to bring more sounds, and we were experimenting stuff on that side as well. And they were like, wow, I never could imagine that my instrument could make this sound. and all because of this exploration that, and try and error that we all had together, recording. So it was a really cool experience, and yeah.
I mean, what a wild ride to record these instruments. A lot of them probably, outside of the Amazon itself, probably not very
Yeah,
well known.
yeah,
And to record them in their kind of natural habitat, so to speak, it just kind of, it makes my head sort of roll off my shoulders a little bit, just like how crazy and how wild it is, and how brave it is as well to kind of do something like this, and for such a good cause as well, because it's probably worth mentioning at this stage that the contact library is set up in such a way that when you purchase it, a percentage of the profits
yeah.
go back to the tribe itself, right?
Yes, it go back to the tribe, go back to everyone who are part of the project, and also goes back to donations as well. Not just to the tribes, but donations to organizations that are helping to keep the forest alive, protected from people who are burning down the forest. It also goes to animal shelters because, especially Manaus, uh, there is a very serious problem with abandoned animals there. It's heartbreaking. I'm not even going to talk about it because it's very intense. And I live there again. I saw with my own eyes. My two dogs were rescued from the street, and one of my dogs has a lot of problems because of this. So it's it's a very bad situation. They have abandoned animals and house, and for me it's just like heartbreaking. And so part of the money also goes to these, we call them angels. Part goes to them so they can like take care of the animals, buy food, buy medicine, treat them. Sometimes it goes to also to adoption homes for kids, foster homes for kids that sometimes they spend their whole lives there. Manaus and the Amazon itself. Manaus is the capital, but of course I live in Manaus. But it's a beautiful place. It's beautiful. It's magnificent actually. But sadly, it suffers from a lot of problems, mainly caused by the corruption from our Brazilian politicians that don't take care of the place well, and there is a lot of poverty there, a lot of suffering, and also the native people who are just abandoned and losing their land as well. So we are trying to help all over the places. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. The cool thing that what we do, because when I created the Amazonic, I was like, okay, I want to make these sounds available to the world. I want these sounds to sound amazing, and I want the world to see the donation that will be generated partly from the profit. I want the world to see how this is actively helping people. So we have this system where we have a girl in Manaus called Carolina, and basically what she does is I transfer her the money. She reach out for these places and call them and tell them like, okay, what do you need? Do you need medicine? Do you need food? What do you need? And they give us a list, and then she goes there. She's doing all the heavy load there. She goes to the supermarket, the pharmacy. She buys the stuff. She captures everything on video, and then she delivers stuff to the stuff to this place. And then people who buy it, they receive a thank you video from those guys they help. Right now, unfortunately, because of COVID, the video recording is a little bit problematic because Manaus is very intensely bad and on this very bad on the situation right now. So Carol is a little bit scary. So now we are sending those guys directly the money. That's not what we want, but at least there is no contact. But after the COVID or when things start to settle down a little bit, we'll get back to do that where Carol will go to the places and we'll bring the food, and we will record the videos, etc., etc., etc.
I mean, I don't even know where to start with that, Antonio, and just like how incredible it is and the importance of it as well. I mean, it's probably worth me talking about why I find this project and this situation so close to my heart, because I'm very, very conscious of what's going on over there in terms of the deforestation, as you mentioned, the forest fires, how the Brazilian government, the current Brazilian government, are very unfriendly towards the tribes in that part of the world, and how awful it is, and also what's at stake culturally, historically, and also in terms of where my sort of access point into this world comes from, because I'm someone who has very fortunately, and this is not a secret, like I've spoken about this at length, I've benefited from what goes on with these Amazonian tribes directly as a result of my experience with plant medicines like ayahuasca, for example. And it's honestly, I like to say about these medicines, they didn't save my life, they helped me to save my own life, basically. That's because great. You know, being in electronic music, it's a very intense industry. You can burn out, and about sort of 5 years ago now, 4.5, 5 years ago, I was in a very, very bad place, and the medicine of ayahuasca, the traditional shamanic way of the way these tribes work, thankfully became available to me. And I took advantage of that and have done, and it's completely changed my life for the better. I have become the best version of myself through those processes. And that means that part of the world, although I've never travelled there, it's somewhere that is of great importance to me on a personal level. And anything that I can do, whether through this podcast or conversations that I can have, or anything else that I can do to highlight what's going on over there, and also protect the rainforests, obviously from an environmental perspective, because you know, the Amazon is known as the lungs of the world, you know, and we're unfortunately, you know, damaging the lungs of the world at the moment. But also these tribes are incredibly important. They've been here for thousands and thousands of years. There's knowledge and wisdom and teachings that these tribes have that once they leave, and if they come to an end, we lose so much, not just as Brazilians, for example, or as people who live in Manaus, for example, or other parts of the Amazon. The world suffers greatly and is damaged greatly by the lack of this wisdom. So, you know, I just want to take a moment to just give you a profound thanks for, you know, being able to create a project that not only creates beautiful instruments that people can make beautiful music with, but can help people in such a profound way, man. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. So, you know, from the bottom of my heart in particular, and I know I speak for a lot of people over in this part of the world who are very tuned into what's going on over there, you know, I would like to say, like, thank you on behalf of everyone, really.
Thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. It's just beautiful to hear this, and I definitely, you know, gonna send your beautiful message to everyone that was part of the Amazon. Some of these guys, they have WhatsApp. so some of them, they don't have mobile, but so we have this small group on WhatsApp, and some of them look WhatsApp once every month, and it's kind of like that. But it's very cool, man.
I love that. But I can just imagine, like, you know, like just you know, tribe leaders with like laptops and stuff. I just love it, man. It's great.
Dude, like when we record the instruments on one of the tribes, the Sanam, man, they had electricity there. They had like one, what's the name in English? One plugging wall plug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one socket.
Yeah, one socket, and that was it for the whole tribe.
That's amazing.
So I've used like let me see if I have here. So I brought this, you know,
Oh yeah.
and I plugged the Neumanns here, and
Mm-hmm.
we also had like the laptops with some sound cards, and some of the MacBooks from my friends, they were kind of old, so the battery was like dying in 30 minutes. So we were like, okay, dude, we have to figure out how we're gonna record this. The moment we open the notebook and press rec, that's it. It's like a clock time. Like we have to do it. Because and then I think for some reason, of course, there was a lot of problem. Like, for example, one of the chants we recorded from them, they had to sing this chant like running around. They could not sing stop because it was part of their tradition. So they started doing this and stepping on the cable, and it was like doing a lot of noise. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do here? And I didn't want to be the guy say, can you please not go in circles? That would be very offensive, you know? So okay, so let's try to figure it out. Oh my God. So all of this kind of situation, so we end up running out of juice in the middle of the recording for one of the computers. And I was like, oh my God, it's like 2 or 3 hours to get to the tribe through boat. There's no way you're going to be able to get back another day. So the guys, only one of them speak Portuguese, and he say, "Oh, you can use our, our plug or sock wall, whatever it's called." And I say, "Oh, you have one?" He say, "Yeah, it's kind of like weird. Sometimes it's very intense. Sometimes it's not." And my friend was like, "Oh my God, it's gonna fuck my machine, possibly." So we recorded, and we lost some takes because there were like these peaks of the energy, and it was
Right, yeah.
immediately affecting the record. So oh my God, man, it was like all kind of issues you can't even imagine. But yeah, it was super cool. It was super cool.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
So
I kind of love that in a way, you know? It's like that adversity. I mean, it's in no way kind of connected at all, but like I used to love like when I first started DJing in like small clubs here in the UK, and it's like the worst, shittest sound systems imaginable, and like you had to stand on a cable to keep the sound system on, basically.
yeah,
But there's just something about that of like this could all completely fail and go to shit at any moment. That sort of like brings the best out in everyone, right? And another thing that comes to mind, just seeing like your mobile recorder there, it's like I would even say like maybe like 10 years ago, something like that, even as close as that, projects like this probably wouldn't be possible because the technology wasn't really quite available the way it is now in such a small form that you can actually plug a couple of Neumanns into a handheld mobile recorder and that will actually get the job done. I mean, that's incredible.
yeah, and then it's just you doing a lot of cleanup process in the mixing. Make sure you keep the vast majority of information there, preserving the sound and removing what's unnecessary. It was a very the mixing stage was very difficult as well. But you're right, the technology is allowing us to do amazing stuff nowadays, and I'm very curious to see where this is going. There were like a lot of ideas that I would like to have tried, but it wasn't possible. For example, I really would like to have recorded this library with a binaural microphone as well.
Yes, that would have been very interesting, actually. That would have
Yeah,
been really cool.
yeah, I really because there is, as far as I know, there are no contact libraries with binaural audio.
No, you would have been one of the first, and that's
Yeah,
actually quite fascinating because I do a lot of work in immersive audio.
uh,
I work for I'm a consultant artist for a sound system company called D&B Audio Technik in Germany,
okay,
and they basically are the company that made the the Kraftwerk 3D shows.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the sound
amazing.
system that runs that is their system. It's called Soundscape.
Oh wow,
So I've been working with them now for the last couple of years, nearly 3 years now, converting that technology to be able to work in electronic music in like festivals and big club DJ kind of situations and stuff. So it is definitely like the future is going to be very much in that minimum sort of binaural, and then that more immersive thing when you get more into like a live sort of crowd situation.
Yes.
So it's really interesting you mentioned that, because I do think with the way the technology is going, that's going to be the next big revolution with audio.
I agree with you. I was doing a masterclass for Los Angeles Film School about that, and I do a lot of audio for VR game, and I have to study all the psychoacoustic simulations, like how we perceive the 3D audio in the real world just by having 2 ears. You know, all the bounces, all the delays, all the initial time delay, all the reverberations, all the gap between the dry sound and the echo. So all of these help us perceive the location. And so I'm obsessed with this subject. And I was also writing a paper about audio for augmented reality as well. But what I was talking about in this masterclass, I was like, I think the binaural experience mixed with augmented reality at some point might be the next evolution of the stereo, because the stereo is boring. Stereo is boring. Like,
tell me about it.
Exactly. I would love to wear these headphones and have like an Iron Maiden playing right here on my left side, like if they were on my living room. You know, the binaural audio is telling me that they are here, and the augmented reality, like the microphone is capturing the acoustics of the environment. It is processing real time and generating like if they were here. I want that. I want that experience. I don't want to stare anymore. I want that experience. And I think it's the that's my guess. I think you agree. It's the next step, natural step.
Totally, and in a lot of different ways, because I think for consumer, because obviously the culture is very different now, because everybody's got I've got Power Beats, you've got the new sort of like AirPods Pro, is it, or something like that? Max, those ones, and again, if you think about the way Apple are putting in things like LiDAR scanners and stuff, and there's that whole thing of being able to pair those devices to give a form of surround mix. There's all of that. Obviously, what Dolby are doing. There's a lot of very, very interesting companies doing a lot of work in this stage, and it's going to go from being able to, like, I look at it from like on an electronic music point of view. It's like, I want a kid who is learning how to make music for the first time to be able to make music in that format natively, and be able to take that music into like a club or a festival situation and be able to perform it like sort of that night in a completely immersive way. And I totally agree with you about stereo being boring. I mean, to give you a bit of background about the way sound systems work in electronic music settings, like, the big festivals like EDC and stuff, dude, those sound systems are mono.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, because they have to be in order to try and give everyone the same experience, right? But they don't have to be now. So with me, and as I said, we talked off air about, my sort of background in film music and stuff. And, I've done Foley mixing, I've done surround mixing for like short films and stuff as well. So I'm pretty well versed in this world, but I always found it very frustrating, like turning up at like a nightclub like Exchange, for example, in downtown LA, where I used to play a little bit, and just have to play in mono. It's like, it's boring. Like, I'm just punching people in the face with the same thing. It's like, I want to be able to give them a really, truly immersive experience that helps them to kind of change their life. Like, that's honestly like how seriously I take this. So from the listening perspective of like binaural, all the way through to being able to go to an actual live event and be subjected to an experience. And again, you mentioned AR in this as well. AR can also be a very big part of that experience. Like, where I don't think a lot of people really appreciate just how close we are to such a huge revolution in this space, where like 5-10 years from now, people are going to look back at what we're doing now and think, oh, isn't that cute? Like old times.
Yeah.
Like, look at them back there with their mono and their stereo. Like that was so vintage, right? You know.
I agree with
Totally.
you, man. I agree with you. It's still slow, but it's you know, I feel like the old school guys and some other people, they are like twisting their nose because they don't want to change this, because it's gonna be a completely new workflow process. It's gonna be to work on that. But you know, like I think like Apple, I am a big fan of Apple, and sometimes I think they do their mistakes, but on the overall, I am very faithful to Apple, because for me, it's their system works better than anyone. And like the new MacBook M1, it's fantastic for music as well. But the AirPods Max, the AirPods Pro, they have this 3D audio on it, where you play like a movie and activate the 3D audio, and it feels like it's coming from the environment. At the point that, like, if I'm watching my movie on my iPad here and I look to the left, the sound will come more from my right to my right ear. So this is fascinating. This changes everything. It's like amazing. So I only think like, wow, this with AR, think about an orchestra playing. And if you walk around, you perceive more of different instruments of the orchestra. Like if you're walking around, oh my God, man, that's like, I don't want Star anymore. I want that. I want this live sound experience, you know?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I can tell you the story about that very quickly as well, about what D&B did in Germany a few years ago when because the soundscape technology is actually, it originates in like the orchestral world. They built it for orchestras basically, and one of the pieces of technology that they've got is something called N-Space, and it's basically 64 channel convolution reverb.
Oof.
And what they did this test event, right? And it was because they're a German company. I think it was somewhere like in Stuttgart or somewhere like that, in a park during the summer. So they had an orchestral concert, and the crowd sat in the middle of this like surround, this soundscape array. And then they were in the park in the middle of summer listening to an orchestra. But one of the convolution reverbs that they have is for the biggest concert hall for classical music in Germany, or one of them, I think, is in Stuttgart or Frankfurt or something like that. So basically, you were in the concert and you were outside in nature, but hearing the orchestra with the reverb of this concert hall.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
And honestly, like, it just, even the thought of that is just unbelievable. So the things that we're going to be able to do are just unbelievable. And you mentioned before about people, like, you know, not wanting to change. I mean, that's a very big problem within electronic music, because all these famous DJs that kind of play around the world and stuff, they can be a little bit suspicious of new technology because they don't want something to make them look bad on stage. So when I kind of came into the project at D&B, I said, like, my main focus is to make this so unbelievably simple to use that, like, you know, like our dogs could understand how it would work.
Wow.
Basically, and that's kind of like where we got to. And like you were saying about it being too slow, like the last year has really delayed it, because, you know, just before it all changed this time last year, we got it to a point where we had an entire surround system being pumped through just a normal Allen and Heath DJ mixer. Like, we could control the whole thing like a normal DJ would with some extra controls through an iPad. And, you know, we had like deals starting with, like, ironically, some of the first clubs in the world would have been in Brazil at that stage.
Oh, really?
And it may well still be the case. Like, we're still working that out at the moment, depending upon what happens with the future and COVID and everything else. But, you know, we've got very big plans for it, like, because we truly believe it's going to completely change the game, because you can control the entire surround mix in real time.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, man.
So yeah,
Dude,
I mean, we even want to. Sorry, after you.
No, go. Sorry, my bad. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, we want to provide a roadmap for people. So, like I said before, that you can sit in your studio and be able to create music in that format natively, because I've been quite fortunate to actually get opportunities to create music natively in that system, and all the rules of music production go out of the window. So it's
That's
like, well, why do I need to EQ my kick drum in order to make room for my bass if my kick drum is 5 meters further forward than my bass is at the back of the room?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Exactly.
It's crazy, and it's
Yeah.
every time I get to go to Germany or go to somewhere else to, and in fact, actually, we have a facility. As I said, I was over for NAMM last year, and D&B, we have a facility in Long Beach,
Okay.
and that's got a soundscape system in it, which I performed at the opening of it. And the soundscape system in there is amazing for demonstration purposes. But to experiment on those systems is just wild. It's just absolutely amazing.
I would love to try that.
Well, we'll see what we can do as things start to open up again, and I'll see if I can get you in for a demo, because it's like it's properly wild. They're using some of my tracks now as demo tracks for Soundscape around the world, so that'd be really great for you to try.
Dude, I have a friend that I if you want, I would love to connect you guys. His name is Fabian Russ. He's German.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
He has this project called Orchestronic. So it mixes like electronic stuff with some orchestral instruments and all process, because they are creating their sound engine to process in binaural and this kind of like augmented reality experience. It's so crazy. I think you guys have so much in common.
Oh man, I'd love to speak to him. Absolutely.
I would definitely, after the talk, I'm gonna shoot an email to him with you and introduce you guys, because you guys would definitely, I think you guys have so much in common. But it's interesting to see, like, I have an impression that Germans are really into this kind of audio stuff.
Big time.
Big time, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and every time I hear about like audio evolutions and stuff like that, is usually comes from Germans. It's like very interesting.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, the main two players at the moment is like, as far as I see it, is D&B, and obviously I'm very biased because they're a great company. I mean, you mentioned Apple before. I actually used to work for Apple. On their retail side,
really?
I used to help open Apple stores for a living. That was my last job in like the corporate world before I moved into music full time.
Dude, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, we had a good time. And it's funny because like, as you can imagine, they're as good as their products in terms of like how they are to work. And ironically, like what I always say about Apple is that they design people as well as their products.
Oh, wow.
And like the training that you get and the insight into yourself, the self-development that you get is just remarkable. And like the near 2 years I spent there, I wouldn't change for the world. Like, they're an incredible company to this day. And to be honest, the only other company that I have encountered that are in anywhere near like them is D&B Audio in Germany. Like, I always refer to them as like the Apple of sound systems, basically.
Oh, wow.
Because they have this whole culture, like, you know, obviously there's always exceptions in a big company like Apple, but generally in my experience, everybody who worked for them wanted to be there and believed in the vision of the company. And that is exactly the thing that happens with D&B. They're just a remarkable company that, like, they've made me feel incredibly at home. They've given me an amazing playground to just go wild in. Like, you know, and I remember the first time they let me loose on a soundscape system. And my friend Bill, who works for them, he first exposed me to a soundscape system, and he basically like stuck it sort of at the back of the room almost with like a clipboard, and like he said, "Well, go wild, see what you can come up with." And like a couple of hours later, I turned around to him and he said, That was really interesting to watch because like you did about 5 things with this sound system that we didn't even know it could do.
Wow, there you go.
Because like I like to, you know, it's like I like to that old saying, like I like to drive it like I stole it, you know. Like, okay, let's take this for a real spin. Let's get the tires screeching. Let's get the smoke going. Let's see how fast this fucking thing can go, right? Let's see if I can break it, you know? Let's see what the breaking point is. And like one of the things with the soundscape system and the technology is that we've not found anything yet that it can't do, which is just tremendously exciting. And it really is truly an immersive, very, very intense experience. Like one of the first performances that I did for the staff at D&B, like I was panning like a sound from one side of the room to the other, and people were literally like ducking. They were like, "What the fuck is?" And like physical, like, you know, psychoacoustic kind of like phenomena happening like in real time, you know. Very, very exciting, and to be able to put like, you know, instruments like the Amazonic and stuff like that into that kind of thing is, it would be huge. So, you know, maybe that's the next iteration of the project, right?
The next iteration, yes. Well, I would love to buy the Neumann, the dummy head Neumann to record, but it costs $8,000, man. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, you can make something. Like, I mean, obviously the Neumann.
Yeah,
you can make something. I've actually got a pair of, I don't know if you've ever seen them. I mean, they're obviously not going to be as good as the Neumanns, but I have a pair of in-ear earphones that were made by Roland. And they actually have, like, mics on the outside. So because they're in your ears, they simulate the HRTF, the head-related transfer function. Like you mentioned before, and the psychoacoustics of it, the binaural fusion, if you will, like the arrival time differences and stuff. And they're pretty good, man. Like I do like binaural field recordings with stuff like this for my music, and they're perfectly good, like.
Dude, there we go, man. There we go. I definitely gonna. I intend to go back to the Amazon and record more instruments there. The next one, I definitely want to have like an extra pair of binaural microphones there to bring this experience, because I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the great benefit of binaural is that, you know, it's compatible with so many systems, right? You don't need a bespoke, specific kind of system in order to be able to hear it. It's like, it's kind of universal, and the way that culture has developed in the last sort of 5 or 10 years is that, you know, everybody's got a pair of these now, and everybody's using Bluetooth and all this type of thing. So it feels like, obviously this technology has been around for a long time, but it feels like its time has come, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, long time, man. Like if you think about it, I think when was the first time they came up with this? I think it was 1974, 1998, something like that. Like we're like way back in the time, but only now it's kind of become popular.
No, totally. Yeah, it's very similar to MIDI, right? It's very similar to MIDI in that, like it's weird to think of a technology that was made so long ago that's probably more relevant today than when it was first invented. Yeah.
But it's interesting because MIDI, like 30 years ago, right? That was when it came out. We're still using it. Only now they're talking about the new MIDI that I think is 2.0 or something like that. But it's still there, man. We all here because of MIDI.
No, exactly, right? Exactly. It's a crazy thing. Like it's
crazy.
I mean. That timelessness, like, you know, of creating a technology, like I say, like I can't really think of another piece of technology that's been invented like that has such a long lifespan, and as I say, becomes more important over time. Normally these things become obsolete after a few years, so it shows you how much of a spectacular achievement the whole thing is.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Oh my God. We just two nerds.
What more do you need, though, right? I mean, come on.
What do you need, man? What do you need? Exactly.
No, I mean, and again, like just to sort of go back to the project, like I think this is part of like a wider trend that I think will start now in the field of pro audio, hopefully, and instrument design and various other aspects where we're going to be able to start connecting them to social causes and
Yes,
to causes
yes,
that are bigger than just ourselves. I think if anything in
yeah,
the last year we've been shown the importance of doing that and how that can operate as a, especially now because the times are just so intense and so just
yeah.
fucking weird, I suppose is the best way to put it. That the technology again provides us with an opportunity to create positive change in the world as well.
Exactly, man. Like I was talking to when I started the Amazonic, I don't remember seeing like the pro audio companies being directly connected to social causes. I've seen some specific like moments where they would donate some part of it, but it's not like in their DNA to be directly connected to social causes. And since day one, when I did the Amazonic, I was like, it has to be a company connected to social cause. That's what it is. It's part of the DNA. And now I'm seeing, not of the Amazonic, but maybe because of the moment, I'm seeing other companies as well being more and more connected to social cause donate, because like that's it, man. You gotta give it back.
Mm.
You gotta give it back. It's a world where you get it and you give it some of it back. That's how it should be for everyone, and especially when we're talking about music stuff, which the sole purpose is to, at my opinion, it's to propagate love, good moments, bring memories, release stress. And I love when artists like they discuss the word problems, because they have, when you have the microphone, you have the power to spread the message to people. And I think it's very important for any artist to be aware of that as well. So I think that when we're working with the creation of music, it's such a powerful thing, especially I know in our case, like you still working with film, I work with some film, a lot of games. We are basically conducting people's feelings. We are like directing, okay, you're gonna feel scary here, you're gonna feel love here. So we have this power to really send a message to people. So why not use some of this power to, acknowledge people that the world needs help.
Mm.
Not just the Amazonic, but a lot of the countries that are facing sadly, lots of wars. Uh, People who are starving in other countries, like the plastic situation, which is getting worse and worse.
Mm.
All of that kind of stuff. There are so many subjects that we could use our own microphone and our own power of sending people's message to let them know that we could make the world better together.
No,
For
absolutely.
me
I couldn't
that
agree
for
more.
me that yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way. It's like together.
Yeah. No, it has to be because again, music is the thing that brings us together. It really,
Yeah,
really is.
exactly.
And again, through my experience with the sacred plant medicines and the lessons that they teach, is I have a background in audio engineering. I understand physics and psychoacoustics and stuff, and I thought I understood music. And then I had my first experiences in these ceremonies, and it was like very plain and very evident to me very quickly. It's like, jack shit, basically. Like here's a real teaching, and the power and the importance and the significance of music as not just a form of entertainment, but as a healing modality cannot be underestimated, especially to the people who are, members of these tribes. They use music
Yeah.
in order to help people to be better for themselves and be better within themselves. And they use it as a tool to build unity they use it as a tool to build community. And I think it's something that, as I mentioned, sort of, as we were off air, about how the sounds that the Amazonic have for a number of years now been slowly but surely finding their way more into mainstream electronic music, thanks to festivals like Burning Man, for example, and the popularity of very specific forms of like house music that have a lot of these natural sounds in them, a lot of them that have these like traditional instruments that really evoke a lot of the quality of the sounds and the music that the tribes create themselves as part of their ceremonies, as part of their healing modalities, a part of their community building. And it's fascinating to see that there is a very similar thing happening now in sort of more mainstream electronic music. And one of the things that my experiences really awakened within me was just how, I hesitate to use the word, but it's the only word I can think of, but just how shamanic electronic music really is, and how, again, we form communities around the music, and we're almost rediscovering and remembering the power of this music. Rather than it being a form of entertainment, it's a channel through which to change the world.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And no, I think that's where the value of the music is, you know. It's like really bringing this together, connecting people and evoking these feelings, and as you say, like remembering. This is amazing. You know, I'm not gonna lie, Paul. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, like how it is when you're working with many projects and you just have to produce, and it's not like that you're not putting your soul into the music production, but it's more like, okay, I have to deliver this no matter what. So it's almost like a factory thing, right? But when I traveled to the Amazon and recorded these instruments, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I for me it was a rediscovering moment, because I could see again why I started making music, and you know, like the connection with the music notes, the connection you have with the music instrument. Those guys, all of their instruments had a purpose, had a spiritual background story behind. The way they were playing had a meaning. You know, some of these instruments, like mawacos, which was like a flute. There is a lot of type of mawacos that we recorded there. Some of these mawacos are used in specific ceremonies, and they break them at the end of the ceremony. Some of these instruments were created to communicate with birds. Some of these instruments were created to communicate while their native people are hunting for food, and they don't want to scare the food, so they use this instrument, like they call like the phone of the forest. And you were like, oh my God, man. You ask yourself, in which moment of my life I lost this connection, this spiritual connection with the music?
Or did you even have it in the first place? Like, that was the thing
you
with
have
me.
in the first place? You're right.
It's remembering it, but it's on such a almost like DNA level. You know, it's so wild. Like, that was my feeling, was like, you know, I've had profound experiences with music in the Western context, but to be exposed to this, it was just like, this is a whole. I didn't really like. I thought I was like, you know, I was on this. I'd seen the whole world of music, and it turns out I'm on this tiny island in like this huge universe of connectivity. It's so wild, man. So I'm so pleased that like you had that experience, right? To reconnect to why you did it in the first place, right?
Yeah, but I am also pleased to hear that you have this thought about bringing this connection, spirituality on electronic music as well, which I think it's fascinating, which I think it makes a lot of sense. It's, you know, I know I'm not a big connoisseur of electronic music. I know some stuff, Kraftwerk, you know, some stuff here and there, but I know more of like I'm more like a rock and roll background. But I think that if you can bring this spirituality, this experience to live performance on electronic music, especially electronic music, because there is this whole synesthetic experience with lights, etc. Man, I think it is fascinating. Like, I'm not gonna lie, for example, I am dying to go to the Burning Man. I've never been to the Burning Man.
Yeah, same.
You're the same? So,
Hmm.
so my friends who've been there, they were like, dude, it's an experience. It's like a life
Hmm.
experience. You connect with yourself. And I'm like, wow, okay, let's do it. And I think it's important for us to, like, if you're like a professional music that are listening to this podcast out there, and like, you have to make music to pay your rents, like we all do. I still have to make some music to pay my rents. I think since the Amazonic, I dedicate a little bit of my day every day to create something for my soul, for my
Mm.
spirit, that makes me reconnect with myself,
Mm.
and remember who you are on your DNA, on your essence. And I started doing this after I recorded the Amazonic, because I saw that on their daily lives, and I was like, wow, man, that's the real music here.
Oh, totally, totally. It's a really interesting thing that you say that, because it shows you that the timing of these things is never less than perfect. Because
Yeah.
obviously we've kind of had to shift this a couple of times in the diary in order to kind of make this conversation happen. And I'm so pleased we're doing it today. But it's really interesting because what you've just said is exactly what I've spent part of my day doing today, and I'm going through a very similar situation personally at the moment, where it's very, very easy, I suppose, in both of our situations, with you doing like game music and stuff, me doing electronic music. These are they're very competitive markets, and
Yeah.
they're subject to like what you would call like very Western forces, right? Like the market and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it can become very, very easy to get into that conveyor belt of just pumping out music because that's what you have to do to pay the rent. In electronic music, it's a very competitive environment as well, because there's a lot of people who want to do this for a living, and there's not many people who get to do it. So it can become, in a very negative sense, it can become very competitive,
Hmm.
and you can get stuck with like, and I'm sure this is the same for you in game music, you can start to compare yourself negatively to peers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start to think like, why am I doing this? And you end up in a position where you end up almost like hating what you love to do for a living. And I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I've come close to do this myself, where it's like, I'm going to quit because it's like I don't like doing this anymore. But it's actually, we've lost touch with the intention. We've lost
Yeah.
touch with why we do it in the first place. So it's
Yeah.
beautiful, and it's great. I think it's really interesting to unpack this of like, you spend a little bit of time every day making some music for your soul, as you were
Yeah.
saying. I've done exactly the same today, and I'm starting on that process myself, because I'm making music for the sake of it. I have no expectation that this is going to make me famous, or it's going to make me lots of money, or it's going to get me someplace. I'm doing it purely for the love and the joy of it. And if you think about it, that's exactly what the tribes are doing in the Amazon. They're not
Yeah.
like playing their instruments every day going, well, I really hope I'm going to get a major record label deal out of this. Do you know what I mean?
You're
It's just,
right.
it doesn't even occur to them. It's like, I'm doing this because we want to do it, and it's part of our culture,
Yeah.
and that's enough.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. And yeah, we keep our thoughts too much focused on feed our pockets, but we forget to feed our souls. You
Totally.
know,
Hmm.
and music is like, for me, the best way to feed your soul is especially if you are into music creation. And that for me, like, again, like, when I saw that the native tribes like recording these and doing all their body movements with their chants, and I remember that on my completely ignorance of someone who didn't know well their culture, I was like, "Can you guys do some like screams, like And I say some ridiculous thing like, "Can you do some like screams like yeah?" And they look to, because the guy translated, and they look to each other, and they were like, "Why would we do that?" Like, that was the moment I was like, "What the hell am I doing? What the hell am I asking them to do, man?" It's like, shut up, man, shut up, shut
Mm.
up. So I shut up, and I just ask questions, and I say, "What are your chants?" And for example, there was like a moment where I asked them, I say, "Do you have any chants that feature the female voice?" And they say, "On this tribe," the translator say, "On this tribe, only the female singers, they cannot sing alone. Only with the male singers. It's part of their culture, all right. But there is one chant where only the elder woman sing alone, but for her to sing, all of the other girls, the other female natives, they have to be touching this old woman's back.
Wow.
It's not like, yeah, no, I'm gonna sing alone, and this is the microphone, and everyone's around watching. No, all of the females, they gathered together, and they were behind her, touching her shoulder and each other's shoulder, like forming like this line, like if they were like giving her energy to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I almost cried when I saw that. I was like,
Wow.
"What am I doing with my life?" You start to rethink everything, man. Wow, this is insane. This is insane. This is like the essence of the music.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
all the spirituality connect. I don't know. It was like one of these moments, like, and it just really touches you, and again, it really changed my life.
Oh man, I can imagine. Definitely imagine that, and it makes me realize, like, in the West or in Western culture, like American culture, UK culture, European culture, like just how disconnected we are. Like we're so disconnected from each other. We're so disconnected from ourselves,
Yeah.
and more than anything, we're so disconnected from nature. And I
Yes.
suppose your experiences, again, you can tell me, I would guess that it becomes very clear how disconnected we are and how these people have a very, very, very different connection to each other, to where they live, and to the earth and the planet in general.
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. I think that especially in countries where money is more than others, I feel like people are especially more disconnected from each other and from spirituality than other countries. Like I can compare like my life in Brazil, which I lived for 32 years, and now the US, which I lived for 2 years and a half. It's so different. It's so different. People in the US are so focused in succeed financially speaking. They're so focused on that they don't have this strong bond, strong connection as personally as I noticed as a Brazilian, because Brazilians, we come for a more not well-structured family. Not that's not the word, but like the sense of gathering together. Every Sunday go to the family's house, the grandma's house, have dinner together. There is a bigger connection, and maybe because of the Amazon as well. A big part of the Amazon is in Brazil, so lots of us, not all of us, but lots of us in Brazil, we have a little bit of the connection with nature. And here, at least in LA, my experience has been very interesting. Like I can definitely see people really disconnected from each other because of the craziness of the world. So it's I think the pandemic situation, even though of course there is the super sad side of the deaths, which is horrible. I always try to see the good side of everything in life. I believe the pandemic made us think. I think it was a good pause for humanity. Like, revisit your life, buddy.
I
Because,
totally agree.
Paul, think like right now with people waiting for the vaccine, we are all equals. It doesn't matter how much money do you have, how powerful you are, how poor you are. We're all equals, waiting like everyone. So I think it brought this feeling of a little bit of equality, even though I hope it's not temporary, but I think it made us rethink a lot of things in our life. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the Western side of the world can be very intense, making you forget all of these good stuffs of life.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I got a very similar sense of the ability to kind of like sit and kind of like, as you said, review your life, but also as well to like process things that in normal everyday life, like we're so busy being distracted by, I've got to get here, I've got to do that, I've got to
Yeah,
buy that thing, I've got to move here, this, that, and the other. And actually, I feel like my experiences with ceremony and I'm working on myself in various different ways in the last 5 years have really prepared me for what happened, because I've became very comfortable with being able to sit with everything that was going on in my life, be able to kind of like create a space to allow it all to kind of come up and be able to process it all in a very healthy way, so it kind of like didn't play such a big and negative and controlling role in my life. And I've noticed this in the last year, that when people were kind of forced to stop and sit still for a while and stop and think about these things, unfortunately not everybody has had those kind of tools
you're
to kind
right.
of like
Yes.
sit with and really understand and navigate
Yeah.
what's happened to them, how to process their trauma, if you will, how to understand what's going on in their lives, how they can let go of things, how they can heal certain aspects, and come out of this, better than when they went in. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case for some people.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. My girlfriend, she's a therapist, and she is dealing with a lot of people who are suffering a lot because of this. It's it's difficult. I think it requires a lot of like reading patience and like talking to people that being together with other people that can push you up, and it's not easy to do alone, definitely.
No, it isn't. It isn't at all. And we've been forced to do it alone
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
which has
yeah. You're right. You're right.
made the whole thing even more difficult.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So
you're right.
yeah, there's not a day that goes by. And don't get me wrong, like I've found the last 3 months like really, really difficult, because imagine being in a lockdown and then having to go through an English winter at the same time.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah,
you get up, it's dark. It goes dark at like 3 p.m. over here in the winter.
yeah,
It's like we've only just done daylight saving times in the last 24 hours, and that's just made a
yeah,
huge difference. Like a huge difference to like your psychology and stuff like that, because you get more daylight and the weather's starting to improve. And as I said before, in England, where we seem to be on a route towards hopefully some form of normality by the summer. So all you can do is ride the waves as and when they happen, right?
yeah. You're right, man. You're absolutely right. Yep. Gotta ride the waves. Gotta enjoy the roller coaster. I am unable to go back to Brazil to visit my family since the beginning of this craziness. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. Where are you from in in Brazil
So
originally?
São Paulo. I'm from São Paulo.
Oh, São Paulo. Okay,
I'm
yeah.
from the concrete jungle world.
I haven't had the pleasure to go to Brazil. I was hoping to before all
Dude,
of this happened.
you'd love Brazil, man. You'd love
Hmm.
Brazil. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure you'd love it. Yeah,
yeah.
it's it's a
I was dating a Brazilian girl here last year, so it's like I'm
look at you, man. Where
you
was she
know,
from?
she was from Rio, so
Ah, there you go, Carioca.
yeah, I learned all about the craziness of South American women, Brazilians in particular.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn about that.
Yeah, and to be fair, the men seem quite just as crazy in a different way, right?
Yeah, it's a very different thing. Did she teach you?
Yeah.
She teach you some Portuguese words?
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. She was too busy. She just moved to Liverpool, so I was too busy teaching her the language here. You know,
Well,
so
I'm happy. I'm happy you had a Brazilian experience.
oh yeah, totally, totally. It was not a bad experience by any stretch of the imagination, my friend. It was all positive. It was all very good. It was all very
Yeah.
good. So, talk to me about what the future of the Amazonic is going to be. I mean, what are there any plans for any sort of future projects, and like how are
Yes,
things looking at the moment?
the Amazonic is the idea is to establish the Amazonic as a social company that represents musical instruments from what we call nowadays minority. You know, so that's the next steps for the Amazonic. It's really establish itself as a company focused on that. So we want to record another library in the Amazon. Not this year though, but for this year we are working, and this is hot news. We are working on recording native instruments from Americans,
Hmm.
native people, and for the First
That
Nations yeah.
just to clarify, that's not Native Instruments, the company. That's like real
Yeah, yeah,
native
exactly.
instruments.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Instrument made by native people, and we want to record for the indigenous people of the America that
Wow.
also suffered a freaking lot
Mm,
in their history, and are commonly painted as the villain guys, which I never understood why. But it's
same.
they also have a lot of great instruments. And I want to also record some of the indigenous people on Canada, which are called the First Nations.
Hmm.
And so right now, the Canadian one is the one that we are going to do first. We are structuring the documentation right now. And we want to record this year on the second semester as the American one as well. It is a lot of work. I don't know if it's going to be 100 instruments again because that was too crazy. It was like I don't think I don't think it's a good idea. So we definitely want to record something around 30 to 40 instruments, and that's it.
Hmm.
But yeah, we really want to. The ultimate goal is really bring people this idea that there are so many spectacular cultures that came way before us, that are on this planet way before us, and the sounds are not just beautiful, but they are loaded with spiritual meaning.
Mm.
And I think it's a great way to bring attention to this, and also attention to all the crises these native people face in the world,
Mm.
and also, of course, the idea is also to keep this social activity by donating the 30% to all of these communities all the time, and make sure everyone gets it. And yeah, that's our plan for next year, and next year another one from the Amazon, and we are also talking about maybe record some instruments from some other locations from Brazil
Mm.
there, because Brazil has so many native tribes,
Mm.
so many native that doesn't live only on the Amazon, but live all spread out all of the country. Like I have one of my cousins that he is a philanthropist. Is this correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
So he helps these native people from that are part of this tribe that are closer to São Paulo, and he does a beautiful job with them. And he was telling me, teaching me all these tribes as well, and they also have their particular types of instruments which are beautiful. So yeah, ultimate goal would be like have this huge catalog of these old instruments created by these native people and make them available to the world, so we can carry this culture on the modern productions and be aware of the critical situation those people are.
Amazing. And again, there's so many different indigenous cultures around the world that this can be applicable to. You know, I immediately think about, you know, the Aboriginals in Australia in particular, because again, like in the ceremonies that I've been blessed to be part of, it's a great melting pot of like different cultures, and you know, I've been exposed to a lot of like Aboriginal culture through that as well, and those instruments as well are just spectacular, and those communities as well have suffered a lot in the modern world, and then they're another, you know, really key part of the equation. So you know, the scope of the contribution that you can make through this company is massive.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I can't wait to see. As soon as we finish this, I'm going to take a look at the company that you're talking about, and I'm going to check your work, and I'm going to email you to send your stuff, because I'm crazy to hear your stuff, bro.
No, dude, I will send you. I'll send you a nice fat playlist of it. You are more than welcome, man. And as I say, you know, like you're gonna have to come back on to talk about game audio in particular, because like, you know, we're very focused on like lots of different things. Like, you know, we don't really sort of stick to one thing. You know, I mentioned a film composer who I've worked with in the past, that, you know, called Jeff Rona. Yeah. Like he did a masterclass for us last year. You know, I've mentioned some other people who I've worked with as well. Yeah. On the film side of things, because you know, it's difficult enough, right, in the music industry these days to be able to earn a full-time living. So you know, one of the things that we try and teach people is to be as flexible as possible, and don't just put all of your eggs in one basket and expect that DJing and releasing music on, like, you know, Beatport and Bandcamp and stuff will earn you a full-time living. Like, you know, it's about sound design, it's about getting your music into film and TV and games, and you know, you can have, if you are open-minded and broad enough, you can have a very successful career as long as you're flexible and open-minded enough to be able to do different things and be able to wear different hats.
You're right, man. You're completely right. And there are so many fronts nowadays, happily for us, to make some money from you know, with music. You know, even the musical libraries. I've seen a lot of my friends writing for music libraries as well, and I think that what you're doing, it's amazing, because you're teaching people, and teaching people not just the music, the side of the music creation, but also how they can keep up with their dreams, right? Work as musicians, work as composers, and bring knowledge to these people. I can say that you're automatically bringing happiness to these people. So kudos to you, bro. This is amazing.
Thank you very much, man.
You're doing
I appreciate
beautiful job.
Dude, you know, like together we can change a lot of people's lives for the better, both in the Amazon and beyond. So it feels like the beginning of something very special, brother.
I agree with you, man. I completely agree with you. I am super happy that I've met you. We've immediately connected. I can definitely feel you are a great soul. And man, I'm very happy, truly happy that we talk to each other.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad we found time to do this today, and you know, I likewise, like, the feeling is entirely mutual. So yeah, just in closing, do you want to give listeners and viewers the website for the Amazonic and where they can find you online and stuff and find more information?
For sure, yeah. So the Amazonic website is basically www.theamazonic.com. My personal website is antoniotioli.com. I also have my music production company, which is called AndromedaSound.com. And for those who are interested in knowing more about the Amazonic, give us a visit, and I will generate a special exclusive coupon for your listeners, Paul. So
Brilliant.
for all of your listeners, I'm
Awesome.
gonna generate a coupon for 30% off. And
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you can write
Absolutely, man. And we'll put all of that in the descriptions and in the show notes.
Great.
And in our emails that we'll send out when we promote the podcast and on socials as well. So, dude, like what it's been the highlight of my birthday speaking to you today, brother.
Happy birthday again. I'm definitely gonna drink a pint for you. What's the name
Please do.
What's the name of the most famous, the most popular beer you guys have in?
I mean, we've got some really bad beers, but I mean myself, I keep it really simple. I'm a Guinness guy. I love Guinness.
Oh yeah,
so.
Can go wrong with a Guinness. I'm definitely gonna drink a Guinness or a name tonight, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you,
brother.
Thank you very much, Antonio. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to welcoming you back anytime soon, dude.
That's gonna be my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and dude, super pleased to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Catch new episodes of Beyond the Studio every single week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts.